How you doing, sir?
That's fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We're going to talk about the creation blueprint process, because everybody's creating. In the beginning, God said, let us create man and women in our image and our likeness. But most people don't know that they're creating. So what do you say to those folks that don't know that they're, in fact, creating their day?
Well, that's it. That's exactly why these talks, because people don't know that they're actually creating their day. You're on all the time. Every word must be taken into culmination to make up your world of experiencing. So just remember that you're on all the time. That's what this is about, remembering. Taking charge and remembering who you are. That's what your chore is just to find out who you are. And at the beginning, I said charge, and I said that it's difficult, but you can do it. It is a doable. Just remember, it's a doable. He wouldn't have given you something you couldn't do and then tell you to do it. So as you think you are is the story for everybody. Consciousness. You do know that you're conscious. Now the question is, first person, how serious is it to you to know first person? Hearsay only, that's all right for being alive, but not for living. Simple quote from Scripture like, choose this day. You are doing so, aware or unaware. And then we're told, arouse thyself, O Lord, why sleepest thou? Everything on automatic to as you think you are.
In talking about the creation blueprint, you said something, who you are. And what I find is that when I'm coaching a client, what I find is that they don't know who they are, or they've forgotten. Some people say that they get off track. How do we help them remain on track or get back on track quicker?
Really is very simple. If you'll keep it simple and remember it as you think you are, you do, you have, you be. And when it talks about being creative, what it is, God has created all of it. Then he gave you his power to choose this day. And you are doing so. Are you aware of what you're choosing? It's what you're experiencing. And if you want to change your experiencing, what are you talking to yourself about ahead of it? Because you're always thinking ahead of your evidence. See, that's a point that I'd like you to really, really understand. You're always thinking ahead of your evidence. And if you don't like what you're thinking ahead of your evidence, then change it. It's change your mind, change your world. It's that simple. And if you keep it simple, you'll remember it. And if you remember it, then you'll think about it quite often. And thinking about it, soon you'll wind up thinking from it. And that's the whole idea. Thinking from, not thinking of. Because that's saying you don't have it.
A lot of people struggle, though, is they think because of religious upbringing and so forth that they have to be perfect in order to get it. Is that the case?
Yeah. They're not being taught Scripture then, because it tells you very plainly, none are worthy. That's not one is worthy. So get over it. It's not about worthiness. It's about willingness. Are you willing to go sit in the silence and contemplate and meditate? Actually exercise your brain more than just everyday ritualism? Come on. Attitude awareness and imaginational control. You can change your world to any whatsoever. That's what was giving you as a potential to choose from. And then you're told, choose this day. All you have to do is try it or do it. You're told, do a thing and you shall have the power. Well, do it and see for yourself.
I'm glad that you stated that, none are worthy, because like I said, I think that a lot of proponents that teach these principles, people are seeing them with the fancy cars, the houses, and things like that. And so since they're not manifesting those things immediately, they think that they're doing something wrong. And I just really want to dispel that right now they're really doing everything right, but you can only manifest according to as you think you are, correct?
Yes, that's right. It's belief. You're told as you believe it is to you. So super, super simple, but it's so confusing at the same time because we're so hypnotized, so mesmerized to the ongoing drama that's what reality is to us. But it isn't reality. It all goes away. Everything, thousands of items in this room, everything in here goes away. But how did it get here in the first place? It was all imagined. And now here it is. And that's the same thing with you. You're told, imagine better than the best you know. And just keep doing so, and keep doing so. And then, if you're patient, you'll see the results. If you're not patient, you'll give up and you'll have to do it again. But sooner or later, you're going to have to deal with your own inner conversations. Why not do it right now? It's available for you to do it right now. Move in and think from better than the best you've yet known. And do it as consistently and persistently as you can.
You said something about dealing with your own inner conversation or your belief system. And what I find is that people think about these principles. People approach me and they say, I've been listening to Neville for 1 year, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, and I'm still not manifesting. But what they don't realize is that they really have not dealt with their belief systems. Is that correct?
That's it. What do you believe? As you believe it is to you. That just answered a ton of questions right there. I mean, you're told, go look within. That's where the answers are. Because it's you doing the thinking and feeling because God gave you to choose this day, and you are choosing this day, and whether you're aware you're choosing this day or not, well, that's the challenge. The challenge is challenge yourself to actually know what you're thinking about morning, noon, and night. Because if you do, you're going to find yourself setting yourself up or setting yourself free. You are setting yourself up more than you're setting yourself free because you're so mesmerized to the ongoing drama. I know I was mesmerized and hypnotized to it for for 50 years. And yet, it was there all along, right in front of me, right there. But I couldn't see it because I couldn't focus long enough to see it. And you can focus. Just do so. I know it takes a lot of patience to do so because that was my big hurdle. That's everybody's big hurdle is just being patient with themselves. And secondly, blessed is the man that does not condemn himself for that which he has allowed. There's the word there, has allowed.
And the thing is, you said something, people can know what it is that they believe simply by looking at their manifestations. We don't want that to be the litmus test, but it is. The other part of it is what you just ended with patience. Many of us, because we're in a microwave society, we want everything yesterday. Because manifestation doesn't come as quick or as we believe that it should, we say this stuff isn't working. But it's always working, correct?
That's right. That's right. If you're looking for instantaneous, all you have to have is wholeheartedness. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, so does he, so has he. It says, if a man would order his conversations aright, he would know salvation. He would be shown salvation. It's what you think. That's what you are. You agree?
I do. And I'm going back to that phrase you stated a moment ago, wholeheartedness. You said if a person really wanted to manifest whatever it is, and I'll say the term whatsoever, then the only thing that an individual needs is wholeheartedness. And basically, he's saying that you need to become that which you're trying to manifest. Many of us are haphazardly trying to manifest things in our lives. And we're wondering why the creation blueprint doesn't work. But it is working, and that's what we want you guys to realize, is that it is working. Would you agree?
That's right. It is working. That's the whole thing. People call me all the time and say, well, it didn't work. Well, I said, well, then you didn't work it. As you thinketh, you do it. They don't like that when I get plain about it, because then they understand it, and they're afraid of it. You know, that's what most people are. They're afraid of knowing. Why are you afraid about knowing? It's a change. And he tells you, in my Father's house are many mansions. And where's his Father's house? Right here. I'm with you always. I will never leave you. Omnipresent. I mean, come on. If you want to get into theology, I'm sure that DeCarlo and I could really get into some discussions. But what we're telling you now are the basics that no matter how simple you need it, this is simple enough.
Speaking back on theology, many people think that Jesus taught religion. That's not what he was teaching at all. He was teaching how these principles worked. Would you agree?
Teaching the law, right.
The law, absolutely. Absolutely.
He didn't come to change what they were doing in the church, but he came to preach the law, and that's what he did. And he told you how mind works. And if you really listen to what he says and don't get caught up in the personalities and all of that of the people who are involved, he's telling you the story of how you go from not knowing to knowing. There isn't anything else, is there? What else? You know, you don't know. And if you want to know, first person, he's telling you this is how you do it. And then he goes through little scenarios of what people did, you know, talking about the lambs and the sheep and whatever. But he was actually quoting scripture that you understand that it's actually you that he's talking to. He's telling you that these things you're doing them. You're causing whatever happens to you, not those on your list. We all had that list, didn't we? You have to get rid of that list of all the people who are involved that cause you problems in your life. They're all your own problems. You're doing this. You're dreaming of monsters you can't handle. And then you run to God to help you. Come on, he gave you choose differently and see what happens. It's as simple as that. I mean, as you think you are, then just right there, stand on that, and you'll see the salvation that you're looking for. In other words, your request is granted, and it always is, because God has already said yes. He's told you, you turn to me, I'll turn to you. So he's already told you he's going to be there. Where are you? You're not going to find him outside of yourself. I mean, that's too far. The woman says, well, don't feel my prayers get any higher than the ceiling. Well, that's already too far away.
I want to clarify something. He said that Jesus came to teach the law. And so for some of you who are going to take that literally, what he's not talking is legalism. Lindell's talking about the law. He's talking about these principles. Some of you would fall back and say, well, we were told we were under grace. You are absolutely under grace. So he's not talking about the legality of Judaism. He's talking about the principles of mind and speech, correct?
That's it. No one else, even Jesus couldn't do it for them. But they didn't ask. You receive not because you ask not, or you ask amiss. And that asking amiss is just asking without believing. And if you're whining and crying to God to help you, then you don't believe. Because God is love, absolute love. Loves absolutely. Everyone makes it. Of course, you go through hell to do it, but that's okay, because that's what this is, actually, literally. You're told to bring heaven on earth. So if it's not heaven now, well, what else is it?
Linda was talking also about the crying and whining, and I often say, if you're crying and whining, that's the prayer. And what you're going to get from crying and whining is more to cry and whine about.
That's how it works. As you think, you are. So if you're whining and crying, that's all you can get more of, because subconscious mind is on automatic. Understand? It doesn't question you. It doesn't care what you're talking about. It doesn't know what you're talking about, except that as you think feelingly, he'll make your world down to the finest detail. It would be wise, I think, to watch what you're running off at the mouth about.
What we all realize, if you've listened to these talks for any period of time, is that it's about ready to be manifested in your world.
That's all it is recognizing, and then hearing about it will help you recognize it, and that's all we're here to do, is to help you recognize who you really are so you can stop suffering.
For you who listen to various teachers, continue on. But if somebody gives you the impression that they got it all together, go the other way. Because life is set up in such a way that we're all going through things. You're not the exception to the rule. You're just a part of the masses. We all go through. The question is how we go through. The goal is when you get off track, what you learn from these talks is how to get back on the track quicker.
You turn to me, I'll turn to you, God says. That's an invitation that stands. When you're ready to return, and then you listen quietly, be still and know that I am God, with you always, never leave you, omnipresence. See, I keep repeating that because that's the whole story, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, in a nutshell, I'm not saying I know all that it contains, but I've seen enough to know that it all exists. And all I have to do is to be quiet long enough to see what's there. You're on all the time, but what are you doing? What are you thinking about? How are you feeling? If it's not likable, you're given to change it. And you can do so very simply. Change your mind. You can change your mind. I mean, I know you can't for a few minutes. If you can do it for a few minutes, then you can do it as long as you need. You have permission. You have authority to change your mind, change your world. It's a given. Already given. You don't need to belong to anything, anywhere, anytime, if you can focus on just that. That's really all there is to it, is that you choose to be as you be, or you don't. Then the whole world around you chooses for you. I can tell you, they don't always have your best interests at heart. Would you say?
Absolutely. Most of the time, they have their best interests at heart. So it behooves you, and this may sound selfish, at the beginning it behooves you to have your best interests, and that's you going within and discovering the divine within you, I am. Would you agree?
Yes. How can you expect to help someone else if you can't even help yourself? You know, I find that most people are actually more against themselves than the people around them, even though they don't want to hear what they have to say, maybe, but still, your personality is your attitudes about life in general. So I would check up on it because, you know, we know from experience that your attitudes either make you or break you. So it would be wise to check up on them, don't you think?
I do. And just touching back on the attitude portion, as Linda was just speaking of, your attitude is creative. It's as with your feelings, your thoughts, your words, your actions. If you discover that everywhere you go there seems to be conflict, or that you're rubbing people the wrong way, or people are rubbing you the wrong way, then look to your attitude creator, because what you'll find is there's your culprit. Would you agree?
That's it. As you think, that's it. What do you think about most of the time? I think the people are lucky who can lose themselves in watching a movie or something and really enjoy it. Because if you can detach yourself from your immediate environment to watch television and get engrossed in that to the point to where you're not paying any attention to what's around you, if you can do that, you can change your mind and change your world. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you made mention of that, using the television or going to a movie. Many people tell me, DeCarlo, I can't visualize or I can't meditate. It goes back to what Lindell just said. If you can sit there and watch a movie and get engrossed in that movie and forget everything around you because you're watching that movie, you can both meditate, you can go into the silence, and you can visualize. Would you agree?
Oh, what they're visualizing, what they're watching.
Absolutely.
Different. The thing of it is that the people are visualizing it for them. But you can still, if you turn off the movie, you can still be thinking and seeing the people doing what they're doing, can't you?
Absolutely.
In mind, well, that's you're using the theater of mind to replace the theater that you were watching. And so you can change your mind, change your world, and you're told constantly that you should do so. And you are doing so, whether you're aware of it or not. You see, that's all we're talking about. It's just being more aware of what you're thinking. And the more you're aware of what you're thinking, hopefully, will show you how to change your mind, change your world. And that's what you're told to do.
And I think it's even in your making it simple, I think that people still will complicate it.
Absolutely. And someone says, well, it's not that simple. But it is. He says, you turn to me, I'll turn to you. Wow, how simple do you want? You turn to me, I'll turn to you. That's an invitation from God himself. Why wouldn't you attempt it? I mean, at least.
It goes back to your the guy saying that it's not that simple. What we're trying to get you guys to see is that it is that simple. We try to give you these illustrations and these examples and so forth because we want you to see that you're doing it all the time.
That's right. All you have to do is be a better director. You're moving energy all the time, and all you have to do is better direct it. That's it. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and I love the term you just used, moving energy. We're energy systems. Thoughts, our words, our feelings, our emotions, our words, our states. It's all directing energy. The question is, where do you want your energy to be directed?
That's it. Yes, that's it. That's it. You know, you're told that it's all with you already. All. Because God's with you. And he's all things to all. Right here, right now. And you're told now is the appointed hour. Change your mind, change your world. So super simple. I know it's difficult just to be patient with yourself. I really do understand that. And I know you'll have to do it many, many, many times, starting and stopping and starting and stopping. But if you'll be persistent, if you'll be consistent, you will make it. You will make it. Not maybe, you will make it. If you stand and see the victory, you'll appreciate it all through your lives.
You know, and I think the biggest problem is that we've confused this organic body bag with who we are. We think that we're human beings with a spirit, and we fail to recognize that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Would you agree?
Perfect. Perfect. That states it perfectly. That's it. I couldn't say it any better. Attitude, attitude, attitude. That's where it all kind of pins on your attitudes. So I would be very, very cautious what attitudes I'm allowing myself to use until I examine myself. You know, self-examination is a must. Without that, life is not really worth living. If you don't know, if you can't get the things that you want, what is it? You're just a slave. And you're given, choose. I don't think they ever gave slaves that, did you?
No. Just by the virtue of who they were, you didn't have a choice.
Most people are slaves, and they don't know it because they don't feel they have a choice. They say, well, what can you do? Well, everything. If you're really tuned in to change your mind, change your world, you can do it. It's a given. God told you to do it. If God told you to do it, he must feel you can do it. So get with it.
You made me think about when Jesus told the Pharisees not to be enslaved to the world around them. And they said, "We're not slaves to anyone. Our father is Abraham." And they were talking, and he said, "But whatever you give yourself to do, to that you've given yourself to do, that's what you're a servant of. So if you're a servant of good, then of course that's what you're serving. But if you're a servant of evil or error thoughts, let's call it error thoughts because I don't want to stay on the subject of so-called good and evil. That's a matter of perception. But if you're living out error thoughts, and when I say error thoughts, if you're living out something contrary to what it is that you want to be living out, you're operating in sin or error. Would you agree?
That's it. It's all attitude. It doesn't matter if you're running a country or just running your farm or whatever. It's all attitude. And if you really, really consider that it is just an attitude, well, then why wouldn't you check and see what your attitudes are? I mean, I get told all the time that my attitude talking to people is, they tell me all the time how blasphemous I am. But they don't understand I'm just giving them a blasphemy. You own everything. There's nothing that isn't yours if you claim it. And that's what you're told to do. You're told to show up and claim it. Attitude, awareness, and imaginational control, you can do that too. You're told to do so. Why would he tell you to do something if you couldn't do it? I mean, how can you be blamed for doing something wrong unless you could have done it right? And you can. He told you you can. I mean, your being creative is just a creative choice. Creation's already finished. But you can choose from creation that is already finished whatsoever. Just be strong in your belief, and you have it. And you're using the power. God gave you permission. He gave you authority. You're using God's power with everything you do. So just focus on using your power correctly.
You were talking about everything being finished in creation, and it's actually a very wonderful thought to think about. 10,000 years ago, I could go back further, but I'll just stop at 10,000 years. Everything that men and women needed to build a computer existed 10,000 years ago. But it took us up to date, let's say 150 years ago, to create the first computer. Everything you need to be successful is already within you. How long will it take? Now, in this lifetime, you don't have 10,000 years, but you can expedite your success by taking a look at your attitude and deciding who it is that you want to be. Would you agree?
They themselves are makers of themselves. That says everything you said, don't you think? They themselves are makers of themselves. Keep repeating that over and over for it to sink in, to actually have an effect on your life. You need to hear it again and again and again and agree with it. See, because it's what you agree with. That's what you're doing. That's what you're being. That's what you're having. What are you agreeing with? If you want to know, just look at your life experiences up to this moment. Wouldn't you say?
What you just said was so powerful, and so I'm going to expound on it. He said, whatever it is that you're experiencing, if you understand that they themselves, I myself, am a maker of myself. Now, if I agree with that, and I look at my present situation, and I say, I'm not happy with it, I myself am a maker of myself. I'm not happy with my present situation. I can choose at that moment when I understand that I'm responsible, not my job, not my spouse, not my employer, not my friends, not my parents. I, myself, am maker of myself.
As they are makers of themselves.
Absolutely.
So you have no fault to anything that happens to anybody else, and nobody else has any fault for what happens to you. Is that not right?
It is. Just still basking in how powerful the message is. people can just sit here and find agreement with it and take ownership.